Good morning again, young ladies and young gentlemen. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope this thing's not getting to you too bad. Talked to a few of you, getting tired of not getting to do life as normal or whatever. But anyway, hope you're praying about it. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're helping your parents take care of you. Hey, I was going through some Bible study and some reading and ran across an old character that I just love the account of what happened to him in Scripture. So I want to share that with you this morning. His name is Mephibosheth. That's kind of a hard one to say. I had to stutter through it there for a minute. Mephibosheth. Now, he was the son of Jonathan. Okay. Now, I want to back up a little bit and tell you something that happened. You remember Jonathan and David were really close. They were just really close. Best friends. And when Saul was going to try to kill David, because he went off the deep end, he was going to try to kill David, and Jonathan actually saved David's life. And Saul told him, he said, hey, you've chosen David over me. You're not going to ever get the throne because you're letting him live. We need to get rid of this guy. No, Jonathan loved David, and so they fixed the plan, and so David could get out of the country and Saul wouldn't kill him. Before they left, though, Jonathan and David had an agreement with each other. They said, hey, let's always never let God not be between us. Always come together with God in the middle. And let's always keep each other in mind and be good to each other. And not only us, but our family, as you know, our kids as they grow up and their kids, and our seed forever. Let's not have any wars between us. Okay, we'll do it that way. So that was the agreement they made. Well, now David, after Saul, he was the first king, Saul was. After he died, then David became king. And when David got through doing all his battles and everything and came back to Jerusalem, he was kicking back there and he was kind of taking a breath, and he said, is there anybody left around here that is of Saul's family that I could show kindness to? Now, here's a weird thing. We don't understand it in our life because it doesn't happen. But then, when a new king took over, a lot of times what they did was get the old king's family and kill them. And the reason was they didn't want to be king for a while, and all of a sudden somebody pop up and say, hey, I'm so-and-so's kid, the ex-king's kid, and so I should have authority or should have power to the throne. They didn't want that to happen, so they'd come in and they'd just kill all the family so they wouldn't have to worry about it. That's just something they used to do then. But anyway, when David got to being king, he said, is there anybody around here that's of ex-King Saul's regime there that I could show kindness to? And they started thinking about it. So yeah, he said, there's this one guy over here, and you guessed his name because that's who we're talking about, Mephibosheth. He said, he's the son of Jonathan. So Jonathan, remember, was David's closest friend. And now this is the Jonathan's son that's living there. Now, Mephibosheth had a problem. He had both his legs were crippled. He couldn't walk well. He was crippled. And what happened was, back in the days when the wars were going on and Jerusalem was being invaded, the lady that was taking care of Mephibosheth was trying to get out of there and save him and get out and run. And in the process, she dropped Mephibosheth when he was 5 years old. Now, I don't know what she dropped him off of. It seemed like it dropped him off of an elephant or something, or stepped on by a horse. I don't know what happened. But he fell, and both of his legs were hurt, and he became a cripple. Now, back there in those days, a cripple didn't have the luxuries that we have now. I say luxuries, but they didn't cater to people with problems then like they do now, where they have a special walkway, a special ramp, and special parking places, and special people that come to their house, and special ways to help them, and that's all real cool. Back then, it wasn't that way. Because if you didn't work, you didn't have an income, you didn't have someone taking care of you. So Mephibosheth was taken off in this land. The land was called the land of desolate land is what it was called. Because there was nobody, there's nothing good about the land. It didn't grow stuff very well. And not many people lived out there except, people trying to hide and things like that. Anyway, this man took him under his wings and kind of raised him. And so he was raised there he was there for like 15 years. So they said, hey, yeah, this Mephibosheth, he's still around here. So King David says, bring him over here. Let me talk to him. Well, Mephibosheth was worried because the king had called for him, and he didn't even know the king knew anything about him, especially hiding out there in the land of the desolate land. So he was afraid that King David might want to kill him because he thought he might have an heir. Mephibosheth might be trying to get the heir to the kingdom. So Mephibosheth went ahead and went to David, and David was talking to him, and when Mephibosheth got to him, he bowed down, and David said, don't be afraid. He said, I'm not going to do anything. He said, but what I want to do is, because I made this pact with Jonathan, then I want you to sit at my table for dinner every night. Move into the palace here and sit at my table every night and he said, and besides all the stuff, all the land and stuff that King Saul had, I want to give it back to you. I'm going to give it back to you. Everything that he had. Well, there was a guy there, and I forget his name, but he had 15 sons. This is the guy that went and found Mephibosheth. He had 15 sons and 20 servants. And King David says, okay, you guys go and work the land for Mephibosheth and bring him the produce, the fruit, and everything off the property. So that's what they did for a long time. Now, later, this guy that was taking care of Mephibosheth's property, he kind of made a trick, and David gave him the property because he thought Mephibosheth had turned against him. Come to find out, he didn't turn against him. So this is the kind of guy Mephibosheth was. When David came back from war, Mephibosheth came out to greet him, and David said, "How come you're still here? How come you didn't come with me?" He said, well, I'm crippled, and the guy that's taking care of me said he's going to saddle up a donkey for me and we'd go, and he never did come back. And so I've been waiting here, and for some reason, he didn't wash his clothes, he didn't trim his toenails, he didn't do any of that kind of stuff till David got back. I don't know why, but anyway. So David, when he had this problem, he says, okay, you guys are going to share the land. Mephibosheth and this other guy, Ziba, I think was his name. It may not have been, so I shouldn't have said it. Anyway, he said, you guys are going to split the property. And here's what Mephibosheth said. He said, don't split it. He said, just give it, let him have it. Give it to him. He said, all I care about is being here, and now that you've returned and you take care of me and being with you, he said, that's all I need. So that was really a kind of a big deal in my opinion, that Mephibosheth did, was giving up half of this property and stuff just to avoid that problem and put his confidence in David. Now, Mephibosheth, when he was called to the castle, David told him what he was going to do. And I want to read this part to you because it's kind of something I want to make a point out of. And this account is found in 2 Samuel, the 8th chapter. And the 9th chapter, excuse me. And when David called Mephibosheth and told him what he was going to do, Mephibosheth said this. He says, and he bowed himself and said, what is thy servant that thou shouldst look upon him, such a dead dog as I am? Now, a dog in those days was not good. It wasn't domesticated. It was just a wild dog, a scavenger that ran around causing problems, getting into things. And a dog was not like we think of a dog today. But he said, this dead dog like me, why would you do this for me? And of course, he explained to him because it was his agreement that he had with Jonathan that he was doing it. Now, the point that I want to bring to you is this. Mephibosheth saw himself as of no value because he was living in that wasteland. He was crippled. His dad had been killed. His granddad had been killed in war. He's just out there, kind of having to fend for himself. The guy was taking care of him, though. But anyway, when he shows up, he says, why would you take care of me, a dead dog such as me? And sometimes that's how we feel, you guys. We feel like, why should God do this stuff for me, the stuff we've been talking about? Why should Christ come and die for me? Why should he want to forgive my sins? Why should he love me so much that he had sent Christ to earth to die for me? Someone like me. Well, because he's made an agreement. He's made an agreement in that with Christ, Christ has come and has done this sacrifice so we can go to be with him. And so what we need to do, you guys, is not live our lives thinking about what we think about ourselves sometimes, but what God thinks about us. And here's an example. Oh, I'm so ugly, and I'm so fat, and I'm so don't have any hair, and I'm so bad, and some of that stuff you can change. And I'm not saying that you just accept yourself the way it is, but what I am saying is God knows all about you. God knows, and we talked about this last week if you remember. God knows, and He created you, and He built you the way He is. But in this whole scheme of things, He was going to send Christ to die for people like you and me that are full of sin and do things wrong all the time and things like that. And sometimes the devil starts giving us thoughts or helping us with thoughts and saying things like, oh, I'm so bad. Oh, I'm not good enough for Christ. I'm not good enough to go to church. I'm not good enough because I'm so wicked. That's just a bunch of nonsense from Satan. Mephibosheth said that about himself. Why would you consider doing this for me, this dead dog? He said, because I've got an agreement. So when we start talking to ourselves about why would God do these things for us, and how could He overlook this sin? How could He not overlook it but forgive it? And how could He, embellish blessings on me, a person like me? Quit looking at yourself the way you do. Look at yourself through God's eyes, and God says through the blood of Jesus Christ, you're my son. If you're a Christian, you're my son, and I'm going to take care of you. And so quit talking, quit believing that kind of stuff. If it's you talking to yourself and saying things like that, or if it's somebody else. Now, when I was in school one time, you might not believe it, and no, we didn't ride horses, although we didn't ride them to school. But anyway, when there were people that looked a little bit different in school, most of the people would make fun of them and call them names, stuff like that. And so a lot of times, in fact, I had this one very dear friend of mine that she was one of my girlfriends for a long time there through high school. And later, she got pregnant, and she had some kind of a body problem. Her body really got messed up, and they had to give her a bunch of drugs so that she could just live. She lost the baby. And she was a very, very beautiful young lady. And anyway, after this happened, she was still pretty in her face, but she was huge. It looked like she was, belonged in the circus or something. But she had so many problems with her body system that it affected her this way. And so many people that didn't understand and were ignorant because of, what had happened and all that kind of stuff, they'd say things about her and kind of, in a jesting way and kind of making fun. And it wasn't even her fault. It wasn't anything she could control. And anyway, sometimes people say things to us that we can't control, but yet God is the one who loves us, and God sees us through Christ's blood, and He sent Christ to save us, and so we're precious to Him. So we need to live our lives as though we are precious to God, because you know why? We are. We are precious to God. So don't let the negative thoughts, either if it comes from you or somebody else, don't let those bother you, although they do bother us, don't they? But don't let them get you down, and don't put any stock in them, because they're of the devil. So anyway, there you go. Mephibosheth, good old guy there, good character for us to look at and kind of live according to some of his examples. So anyway, hope that helps if you're having some of those kind of problems or whatever, but I hope that helps. And you can remember the name Mephibosheth. Now, that wasn't really his name. It was really his name, but I think it was changed when he moved out to that land, a desolate land. Because in the Bible we read about two Mephibosheths, and they were both in the lineage of Saul, but one of them was killed by some adversaries there. And Mephibosheth, this guy, David protected him, but he went by a different name for a while. So anyway, Mephibosheth, there you have it. Maybe you can glean some stuff off of that, help you through life if you have some problems with the things that you think about yourself or somebody else saying or whatever else like that. Okay, well, take care of yourself, you guys. And like I say, help your parents take care of you, and I hope that Hope this thing blows over and everything gets back to somewhat normal. And anyway, I'll see you later. Let me know if you have any questions. And see you later. Bye-bye.